Stop that. Everybody, we're going to record this so we can get it to the huge number of people that are interested. I'm Mara Sullivan, if you don't know who I am, and I'm the new CEO of the ARC of Massachusetts as of, I guess, 12 days ago. And I'm so pleased to be here today. This is just a very important webinar, a very important topic to me, and I'm happy to be able to share some information through such an incredible organization and people who have lived experience with inclusive fitness. So thank you. We're going to give everybody a couple more minutes to get settled and to let everyone in. And I'm just going to mention, if you are new to the ARC of Massachusetts, we are the leading advocacy organization here in Massachusetts for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and autism, and their families. And we also have 17 chapters across the state of Massachusetts who do some of that hands-on, on-the-ground services and supports. So if you haven't, been connected with us in the past, please stay connected. Everyone will also, yeah. Oh, and try to stay muted during the presentation. If you have any questions, absolutely put those in the chat, or we will have time at the end to do questions. So I want to make sure that I have a chance to let our guests introduce themselves. I'm really honored to have them here today. So I'm going to introduce you to Greg so he can take over. But I just wanted to do a quick anecdote around when I first learned about inclusive fitness and I met Greg. I just immediately thought that this really needed to be part of our disability policy platform, that fitness and physical fitness needs to become a really key part of how we support people with IDD and autism in our community. So I wanted to just mention that it's on my radar as such an important thing to advocate for in terms of supports through our agencies like the Department of Developmental Disabilities and the Department of Public Health and our school systems as well. But I know what it takes to really have an effective program for people with neurodiversity and IDD. And I have 2 kids myself, and exercise and physical fitness has been just a key piece of their life to really be able to grow their strength, both physically and mentally, their confidence. And I think you're going to find out today, without stealing any thunder, just how important it is to be able to establish that motivation, which is what inclusive fitness does. And to be able to then take all that work and generalize it right into real life and day-to-day life. So personally, I just couldn't be more of a fan and more excited about this initiative and this organization. So Greg, let me turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Wow, thank you, Mara. What a nice introduction. And I know Dan will say this again, and he's already said it in the pre-call, but congratulations on your appointment. We're so lucky to have you.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, first of all, I'm Greg Austin, and I am so thrilled to be here, and I'm just honored to have so many people not only be on this call now, but also to have signed up. We've had a very nice response to this, and everyone will be getting a copy of the recording and the slides later. So thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. We have a lot to cover. I'm very excited about this topic, and I'm going to try not to nerd out on it, but I do want to share with you what we've learned over the course of the years that we've been doing neuroadaptive fitness training, some important things that we want to share with you. We are very lucky to have some special guests joining us and helping convey some of this information. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to share my slides, and then I'm going to have both Stacy and Dan introduce themselves, and I'll tell you a little bit about me, and we'll get going. I think Mara may have already said this, but we have a lot to cover and we have a lot of people here. And so I'm going to start sharing now. Um, I think we would like to hold off on questions until the end, but please feel free to send your questions in the chat as well. Mara is going to be monitoring that. We also have other people on the team from Inclusive Fitness who can answer some questions. And of course, we'd always love to talk to you afterwards. So we will get to all of your questions one way or the other. So, all right. So we are here to talk about, I'm going to go back one slide, uh, what it means to raise the bar for fitness for the neurodivergent community, the neurodiverse community, and to talk about how it can change people's lives and what people should be looking for. And that's what I mean by raising the bar when it comes to neuroadaptive fitness. So to help me share some of this information, I've invited two very special people, Dan and Stacy, who are just fun, wonderful people. Dan is an athlete here. Stacy is the mother of an athlete. And I'm going to ask them to spend a minute or two just telling you about them, and then we'll get into the sort of the agenda for the next 45 minutes. So, Dan, do you mind telling the group about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Dan O'Donnell, and I've been an athlete of inclusive fitness for 2 years. Um, I absolutely love about what fitness is, and I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks, Dan. And by the way, if you don't know Dan, if you haven't met him personally, uh, one of the things that I've always heard is don't let anybody put Dan in front of you in a presentation. He's just so enthusiastic, so wonderful, and just a fantastic advocate for himself and others. By the way, can you all see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Great. Stacy, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everyone. And Greg, thank you for inviting me. And thank you, I guess, for letting me follow Dan. I'm not sure that. However, Peter has been an athlete at Inclusive Fitness over 2 years, 300 plus sessions. He's 24. He's an athletic guy, but they bring a new dimension to him being somewhat antisocial. So I didn't think it would work. And it has been an unbelievable experience and truly magic in that gym.
Thank you, Stacy. And as I mentioned, I'm Greg Austin. I'm a co-founder and president of Inclusive Fitness. That's my wife, who is also on this call, in that photo there, and our son, Lucas. Christina is on the call, and we came up with this idea several years ago, sitting around our kitchen table. And we were so fortunate to be joined by some amazing people, including my business partner, Kristen Abendroth, who is our director of member experience, who's on and can answer questions by the chat. Also, Shayna Harper, who is our head of marketing and one of our amazing coaches. And also, I think Lauren is on, who is our head coach, Lauren Ferrarello. And just so fortunate to have this group on. So thank you, guys. So we'll dive into it. What do we want to discuss today? There's really three big things that we want to get into. The why, what, and the how. Why is physical fitness and particularly strength and conditioning programming so important for everybody, but especially for people who are neurodivergent? And then what are some of the barriers that we face in actually accessing it? And then number two, what does neuroadaptive fitness look like? In fact, we're going to take a step back and actually ask the question, what is exercise all about? And when you're doing it well, what does it look like? And then finally, how can we as a community and as individuals raise the bar, as I mentioned earlier, and expect more for our community so that they are able to reap the benefits of high quality exercise? And what should you be looking for? Not just in inclusive fitness. This is applicable to any program to one extent or another.
See you later.
I think someone needs to go on mute.
Not today.
I think
I'll
someone needs
see
to
you
go on
later.
mute.
Oh, I'll try to grab it.
Sorry, if somebody could mute her, that'd be great.
Got it.
So, now I'm going to preface this a little bit by giving you a bit of a spoiler alert of what I think after the number of years we've been doing this, we would expect people to look for in a good neuroadaptive fitness program. They are a strong methodology, deep expertise from the coaches, a real sense of empathy, a well-designed environment. It doesn't have to be specialized, but it needs to be well thought through. Things that are exercises that are focused on functionality and generalizability, and then really importantly, results. Looking at this in terms of getting something that is tangible and is going to improve the person you're working with, their quality of life. So this is a bit of a spoiler alert. You'll see these things kind of emerge as we go through the presentation, and then we'll recap them at the end. A little bit about inclusive fitness, just to kind of set the stage, so you understand kind of where we're coming from. At Inclusive Fitness, we provide one-on-one and small group training for people who are neurodivergent, whether it's autism like our son Lucas, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, brain injury, ADHD, anxiety, or other genetic disorders like Prader-Willis and Fragile X, for example. And we've been doing this since we opened our doors in October of 2020. Over the course of that time, we've actually, I need to update this, we've run over 20,000 sessions, almost 20,500 sessions with our athletes. We're running about 600 sessions a month, about 70 or more groups that we're doing. And we're approaching 200 of inclusive fitness athletes who are active. And we have 10 coaches. We have the one center here in West Roxbury, but we're planning to expand nationally over the next few years. I include this slide. It might be a little bit choppy, but I wanted you to just to see kind of what we do here with the different types of athletes we have, whether it's one-on-one, working with people who may be very complex to very independent. And you can see some of the groups that we do. There's Peter right there on the left-hand corner down there doing a chest carry. Just to give you a flavor of when I talk about the program we do here, this is what it looks like. And we'll get into some more of that later. So let's get into that first question of why is physical fitness and strength and conditioning programming in particular really important for our community, and what are some of the barriers that we face? You can see Peter doing there with our head coach, Lauren, an overhead throw with a 6-pound medicine ball. And you don't want to miss it, by the way. He's very strong. You want to catch that ball every time. I've done it, trust me. So some of this stuff will, I think, be quite obvious to you, so we'll kind of go through it quickly. But I want to make sure we touch on what is the big picture here when it comes to the health and wellness and the overall fitness for people who are neurodivergent. I'm not going to read each of these stats. You can read them yourself. But what I will point out is that this is becoming something that is recognized as a serious issue, that the disparity for health and fitness for people who are neurodivergent is having a significantly deleterious effect on our community. The fact is that there are very clear and I think reasonable expectations around what people should be getting in terms of their exercise, but it's not happening, unfortunately. What I found very interesting in some of the research that we've done is that many adults with disabilities, they should be doing strength-based activities 2 or more days a week. We'll get into why in a moment. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, the research has shown time and again, and I'm going to guess that most of the people who are on this call won't be surprised to hear that they're not getting those levels of physical activity that they need so desperately. Somebody needs to go on mute. I don't know if you know that there's some background noise, if you don't mind. Now, Mara, if you don't mind, I would love it if you would comment on the survey on the right-hand side here that you guys have run recently.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. So I think most people have heard me talk a lot about health disparities in our community, as our programs are kind of set up to work on health equity in a way that we work to change attitudes, right? We try to take away those attitudinal barriers. But what this survey showed us was that healthcare in general is a top concern to our community. I mean, as much it came in at the same level as workforce, which we know has been such an incredibly important area to address for the ARC. So we sent this survey out to and over about 550 people responded. So we got a very high response rate. And healthcare came in just neck and neck with workforce and workforce training. So I thought it was really relevant to share how important health and well-being is to our community.
Thanks, Maureen. I know that when we talk about healthcare, there's a broad definition of that. It's clearly not just about health and fitness, but if you think about health and fitness, if you think about strength training and conditioning, there is no better medicine and preventative care than taking care of your body before you need to get healthcare. And that's how we look at it. This is medicine without any bad side effects. And so what are some of the positive benefits of strength and conditioning programming? There's reduced mortality, proven time and time again, cardiovascular benefits that reduce your cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, and increase your good cholesterol. You can have better body composition, which has all sorts of positive benefits. Additionally, your blood sugar levels are better, so that you tend to have lower risk of type 2 diabetes, stronger bone and skeletal system. And no surprise here, mental health is very much improved when you take care of yourself through strength and conditioning programming, reducing anxiety, improving mood, managing stereotypies, perseverations, and even depression. At the end of the day, this is not just true for people who are neurodivergent. This is true for all of us. And anybody who exercises already knows that. But it's especially true for our population because they just don't have access in many ways to be able to take care of their bodies in the way that most of us can. Because we all need that level of strength and confidence and community that comes from taking care of your body. And Dan knows this very well. As he said, he's been doing this for 2 years now. And so I was going to ask Dan if he would be so kind as to spend a minute or two talking about why health and fitness and being strong is important to him. So Dan, do you mind sharing with the group your perspective on that?
Yes. I first joined Inclusive Fitness October of 2022, and it has just been an amazing experience. All the workouts that I'm able to do, and they keep me so healthy and strong. And I've made so much friendship through Inclusive Fitness. All the coaches are amazing, and there are no words to describe the feeling when you walk in and when you open the door to Inclusive Fitness, and it is such a magical place. And I'd say it's a masterpiece. I'm not sure about everyone else, but I consider it a masterpiece of a fitness center. And not only Inclusive Fitness helps me keep me stronger, it helps me prepare for future Special Olympics tournaments. And I love it.
That's amazing, Dan. I swear to God, guys, I did not pay him to say these wonderful things. He's just that kind of a guy. He's so enthusiastic. Dan, is there anything else you'd like to share about how it helps you in other parts of your life?
Yeah, so it helps me with my Special Olympics group, which is in Brookline, and which is a fabulous program. And I also do a program in Newton, and it also helps me prepare for like when I'm carrying heavy groceries.
Mm, absolutely. You're thinking about farmers walks, aren't you?
Yeah, and plus I am so proud of all my accomplished there, and I want to keep staying healthy and keep going to Inclusive Fitness.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. That's amazing. Well, Dan is very special, and Dan is very unique. But unfortunately, there's about 30 million Americans who are neurodivergent, who aren't getting consistent quality exercise. And I don't say this to scare anybody, it's just the facts. And of course, it leads to a lot of the things you're seeing here, more diseases and injuries that are preventable, poor mental health, and for many families, isolation and stress because of higher medical costs. And unfortunately, there are not many places or programs that are 100% dedicated to supporting this population. Lots of places are overwhelming from a sensory standpoint. A lot of trainers aren't experienced. And there's really not a scientific approach to programming. And those become some significant barriers. But I'm here to say that we can change that. And it isn't just about inclusive fitness. I think we can all raise our own standards, raise our own bar for what we expect from all the programs that we have access to. And hopefully some of the things we'll talk about will convey that. So we really believe it is time to raise the bar and to change those expectations and kind of know what we're looking for. Because if you think about it, our bodies are one of the most important things, if not the most important thing that we need to take care of for our lives, yet it often becomes an afterthought. You wouldn't go to a therapist and not expect them to be highly educated or empathetic or to know how to work with somebody, or you wouldn't go to a doctor who doesn't know how to really understand and diagnose and prescribe medications or therapies for you. The same is true for fitness. And this is a lifelong thing that can significantly improve quality of life. So that's why it's very important. It's not just a nice thing to do. It's not a nice to have or an afterthought. This is crucial. This is crucial. So let's talk about what neuroadaptive fitness looks like and what we've learned over the last several years of having done this, and then how it can impact positively the quality of life of the people we support. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we kind of need to take a step back and understand, well, what is exercise? Because oftentimes when I've asked the question, because I've made this presentation or one's like it before, and I ask the question, what is exercise? And lots of times people don't quite have a clear definition. They may say, oh, it's movement or it's a sport. And these are good things. Trust me, I'm a big believer in it. But we have a very clear, I say a specific definition of exercise. And it really is doing any regular physical activity that is intended to challenge your body and your mind so that you're developing the strength, the stability, the stamina, and the skills, 4S's, that ultimately will help you gain and maintain your health and allow you to do other activities in life effectively, safely, and with greater confidence. That's a very specific definition, and that's what we really try to do here at Inclusive Fitness, and that's what I think all fitness programs for our population and all of us should be looking for. Now, we have over the years worked with a wide range of different athletes. Dan is on one spectrum, then we have others on the other end of the spectrum. And what I've learned is that across that spectrum, depending upon the supports and the needs, most are able to see significant gains. Sometimes people aren't quite ready, and maybe we're not ready to support them. But the fact is that we have seen the vast majority of our athletes be successful using some of the things we're going to talk about in a moment. About 20% are profoundly autistic or very complex. About 50% are kind of, they need some supports, they need some motivation, but they can actually exercise vigorously. And another 30% are super independent, just jump in and do it like Dan, and are ready to actually almost sometimes be coaches. Right, Dan? Across that, we've learned a few things along the way, that series of sessions we've done. And we've fortunately had the good fortune to work with Autism Fitness, which was founded by Eric Chesson, to sort of frame our methodology and how we work with those different types of the population, those different profiles. Eric, I don't know if he's on yet. He might be joining us later. He's been doing this for over 20 years, and we became friends. Now we're partners and working together, and he's our director of programming now, and he certifies people around the world in how to do this. And he came up with this concept called the PAC profile, which thinks about physical, adaptive, and cognitive dimensions when you're working with people who are neurodivergent. I should point out that as far as I'm concerned, this applies to anybody, neurotypical or neurodivergent. But in our particular case, obviously, we're working with people who are neurodivergent. And so what do we mean by these three things? Physical, we're looking at their strengths, where they need to grow, and specific considerations. For example, maybe they have a limited range of motion, or they need to use a wheelchair because of locomotive issues. Adaptively speaking or behaviorally speaking, what motivates a person? What demotivates them? Do they have any sensory issues or stressors or behaviors that we need to be accommodating and supporting? And then finally, cognitive. How does somebody learn? How do they communicate? Do they have a processing delay? And how do we accommodate that? If you think about each of these three things and you train your coaches in a way that they can approach each athlete with these considerations in mind, and you assess that athlete, then you're in a much better position to support them. It does take time, it takes work, and it takes some expertise, but we can still, again, raise that bar and start thinking more holistically around what we need to do to support our athletes. And speaking of coaches, again, I think we can raise the bar in terms of what we're expecting. You will find here at Inclusive Fitness and in other really good programs that provide neuroadaptive programming, people who are really educated. They're very smart, but just as important, they're very empathetic, and they know how to connect with and kind of give space to the people they're supporting. And they're really committed to this space. It's not like a part-time thing. Maybe it is, but they're really committed to it, even if it is. They've gone through some certification. They have some specialization. They don't only know about physical exercise, but they also know how to support somebody behaviorally. They've also, you're looking for people who can be mentored by others who've done this before and show them the ropes and give them sort of the tips and the tricks to do this well. And they're constant learners. They're people who are learning about different diagnoses, different behavioral supports. So you want to, when you're looking for a good fitness program, it's good to ask about these different aspects of the coaches who would be supporting the person you support, or yourself if you're a self-advocate. So we're fortunate to have 10 fantastic coaches and growing here at Inclusive Fitness that are just they are the heart and soul of this company. And so I thought I would ask Stacy to talk a little bit about her experience, because Peter has been here for about 2 years, maybe a little bit more. And Stacy, you've commented to me about the importance of the coaches and sort of the way we approach supporting Peter. Do you mind talking for a couple of minutes about that?
Great, I'd be happy to. Peter's a pretty athletic guy and is able to do outdoorsy things with the family, but we wanted to sort of step up his fitness routine by adding what Greg mentioned, more strength training. He didn't really want to do it at school, didn't really want to do it at home. So my friend Barb said, you need to check out Inclusive Fitness. Her daughter loved it. And they are very comfortable working with kids with autism or profound autism. So we went in, Peter's 6'2", so he's kind of a big guy, and immediately was assigned to Lauren, who's about half his size, but clicked with him immediately. Peter's somewhat antisocial, communication skills really, really tough. So we really weren't sure if this was going to work for him, because there's a lot of communication back and forth, understanding, and so forth. So they worked slowly, built up, let him have the independence he needed because he's pretty capable. And then Lauren's talking to him and communicating with him and getting to do things we could not believe was possible. So much so that we added a second session, and now we were going twice a week. And he literally loves it. He goes in after a long day at a day program. So this is in the afternoon. And he is very happy, has never resisted going. So we decided to push him a little further, and recently took one of his one-to-one sessions and put him in a group with some other young men who are probably more social than him, but he's learning from his surroundings on how these young guys interact, and he's waiting his turn, and he's learning skills from them, and I think vice versa. But it's been a very patient road. These trainers are incredibly skilled at working with our population, clearly from the fitness point of view, but from the behavior point of view. I think there is no individual they can't service. I would really encourage families to take a chance, go check it out. Peter is 24, so he's receiving some adult services through DDS, so he gets some flex funding. Our flexible funding allows us to pay for his visions, his sessions. And so it's been a win-win, and literally can't believe after 2.5 years, we're still there, and he goes loving it every minute. So grateful to Greg and his team.
Thanks, Stacy. He is a hoss when he comes in. By the way, in this picture, he's pushing an 85-pound Rogue sled with 100 pounds on top of it. And by the way, this is maybe a year ago. He's pretty incredible.
And then it
And
does help the whole sensory piece. Sorry, Greg. I mean, he's got an issue with what they call force modulation, which means if you take an egg and you squeeze it, you'll crack it. And he doesn't understand, hard and soft. So these input, the medicine ball you saw earlier, things like that. He works washing dishes at a food pantry after school on Thursdays, and carrying the loads of food and dishes and things like that is a direct result of his strength training with Greg and his team.
yeah, thank you. And I want to stress that, we're talking about what we do here at Inclusive Fitness, but and we're going to get into the section, which is about the 6 key tenets that we follow here. Again, these are applicable anywhere. Whatever program you're looking at or a part of, it doesn't have to be here. It's just what we've learned over time. And I'm excited to kind of get into that now because I think, we've talked about why this is important, how it can fundamentally change somebody's life, and how it's possible. Now, let's talk about a little bit about, what does it really take? And how can we raise that bar for physical and fitness? So there's Dan doing his shoulder presses and improve overall quality of life. Because the things I'm going to share with you now, I think, are applicable no matter where you may be. It's just a matter of sort of what's most important to you and how can you gradually start to expect more from the people you're working with, or maybe even yourself. So these 6 key tenets, again, a little bit of a spoiler alert, here they are. They boil down to presuming competence, meeting the athlete where they are, really prioritizing self-agency, generalizing to real life, engaging the ecosystem, all those people who surround that person, and then really focusing on achievement. I'd like to walk through each one of these quickly and tell you how they apply here and give you a couple of examples with some more videos and stories. First, and this is the most important, and we have this on our wall outside, presume competence. We have to start with the assumption that when somebody drives into the parking lot or walks through the door, that they can learn to exercise, they want to achieve, and they can succeed with time, guidance, and support. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's not the right time. That doesn't mean it's never going to work. And so my whole point here is that if you start by presuming competence, then you are setting the foundation for success, because these guys are incredibly capable of achieving amazing things. This is Terry. He's just amazing. He's been working out here for 4 years, and I can tell you that you don't always know when you start, but with the right supports, he's been able to be very successful. He comes in twice a week now. He was just here, as a matter of fact. Our second tenet is meet the athlete where they are. We have to sort of let go of our own agenda. Oftentimes I'll hear a parent say, "Oh, I know they can do this. We can push them harder." And that's true. And our first reaction is, of course, I know they can do this too. But we need to give people the space, the time, the comfort to be able to do it on their own terms. It doesn't mean we don't have low standards. We raise that bar. I'm sorry, we raise the bar, but we do lower the barriers. So we meet them where they are, whether it's in this instance here, working with an athlete by just sitting on the floor and helping them get comfortable by even having you present and in their space to the point where they can begin to develop trust. Drop the agenda and meet them where they are. It is perhaps that these two are very important. And so I want to give you an example of what I mean by that. These two things, presume competence and meet the athlete where they are very well exemplified in this wonderful, wonderful young lady named Mary Gwen. I think maybe Barbara is on, I'm not sure. But I have a video I want to show of what it was like when we first started and then where she is today. And this is a little out of date. She's even doing more today, but I'm going to walk you through this. If it's a little jerky, I apologize. But when Mary Gwen and I first started working together, and I'm no longer her coach, except for occasionally when I'm lucky enough to get to train her, we would sit in our private space. I would sing a song and build up some trust. Eventually, we started to develop more rapport, took her onto the main floor, and Mary Gwynn started doing heavy carries, bag drags, squats, overhead presses. She's working with more coaches now. This is sped up, by the way, so we can get through it. But she's using great form. And look at those sandbell slams. Feet are positioned. She's rooted. And she's absolutely a hoss when she walks in. And so Mary Gwynn is a great example of somebody who, when you presume competence and then you meet them where they are and you support them over time, they can achieve amazing things. And I just love seeing her come in every single Saturday and do her workout here. And I think it's important for us to all start by presuming that competence, I should say, and giving them that chance.
Greg, I just have to, can I jump in there just to say just how inspiring that is to me as a parent. I know how hard that is to believe that even when your child or your loved one has some challenging behaviors or is easily overwhelmed, that this isn't going to work. But, you know, I've seen it over and over. And I think one of the important things that you said is letting go of our own agendas, right? And that's so important. So I just want to say kudos to being able to, you know, really put that out there, that this is really meant for anybody. And it might be slow and it might not be always the perfect time for someone, but not to give up on that.
I love it. Absolutely. That's so true, Mara. And thank you for saying that. And this slide here is really intended to kind of convey, when you're working with somebody who is neurodivergent, or when you're even maybe speaking to a neuroadaptive coach who may be working with them, is what is their approach? What is their thought process and philosophy around how to build that trust? Because it is essential. A lot of the athletes we see walk through the door are really anxious. We're looking at a change in routine. They could be overwhelmed with sensory issues or inputs. It may not be clear what the expectations are. And unfortunately, they may have had what I would say are, quote, failures in the past just because they weren't supported properly or it just wasn't the right time. They're also in a new environment. There's new people. And the new demands that are being placed on them are very overwhelming. Imagine, you know, if you've never worked out before in your life and you go to a powerlifting gym and you see all these people that are just amazing at doing what they do and expert at it, and it's loud, there's noise, there's music, it could be very overwhelming. Imagine if you have a lot of sensory issues and maybe some trauma from your own experience. This is where we really have to meet them where they are. And then we introduce challenge, very modest challenge, but one where they can be successful. That it creates some tension. You may have an extinction burst. You may have some challenges with other behaviors, but persisting, backing off when necessary, letting them succeed. And by the way, a success might be walking to the door and touching the doorknob. It may be coming into the foyer and touching a medicine ball or letting me sit or one of our coaches sit with you. That is a success. You build on it. And over time, it's amazing what can happen if you do let go of your own agenda, and then you can eventually build that trust, and then you can start challenging more, but always being aware of the fact that you may need to back up and regress a little bit before you progress. And so whenever you're looking at a fitness program, be sure to understand this is an important expectation around the coaches and what they should be thinking about when it comes to building trust. This next one is also very important. Prioritize self-agency. You want to look for programs that are giving the athletes what we call OCC, options, choice, and control, before, during, and after their program, so that they can, first of all, see what's happening. They can make some choices beforehand, like I'm not feeling like doing squats today. I'd rather do something else. And then marking things off as they go along. And even during the session saying, do you want to do 8, 9, or 10 sets or repetitions? Giving them that choice. Now, not everyone does really well with choices. That's okay. You can still accommodate that. Not everyone can communicate verbally or even with an augmentative device necessarily, but it is amazing how people can actually communicate in different ways. And our job is to understand that and to give them those options and choice and control so that it feels like, and it truly is, their own fitness program. By the way, yeah, there you see one of our athletes marking off his board at the beginning of his exercise program so that he knows what he's expected to do and what he's going to do that day. This is important as well. This is getting into more the physical aspects. So you want to make sure that the programs are really generalizing to real life. Functional fitness is, we all talk about it, we all hear about it these days, but what it really means is doing pushing, pulling, hinging motions that are going to translate and generalize in a way that makes you stronger, more stable, and more resilient, and more capable of dealing with life in the real world. You see a couple of our athletes doing heavy sled pushes like Peter was doing. It's, by the way, I have them all over the place because it's one of our favorite exercises to do. So specifically speaking, functional exercises, they mirror daily activities. Pushing a cart, for example, carrying a bag of groceries. It is general versus specific. Like Dan mentioned earlier, that what he does here helps with Special Olympics. We don't do sports-specific training here, but what we do here helps him there. It engages the whole body. It's all about practical skill development. It, again, improves performance elsewhere, and it prepares us for the unexpected. So what does it look like when you're doing this? All right. So, for example, this young man here, I would say a really handsome looking guy, is doing a variety of exercises on the left that are translating to what he's doing in the right. I said that earlier a little bit tongue in cheek because that's my son, Lucas, our son, Lucas. He's 19 now. And you can see he's doing farmer's walks, heavy carries, and sled drags that translate into real world stuff. He's negotiating with me right there about who's going to put him to bed that night. So a little bit of behavior modification, i.e. bribery. So it does need to translate to real life. Now, two more tenets here. It's very important, I think, that we look at each athlete as being a part of an ecosystem. They may have parents, caregivers, brothers, sisters, obviously other caregivers who take care of them and may bring them. All of us are role models, and all of us are also human beings that need to take care of ourselves, and we need encouragement and support. So programs that create a sense of community, that bring people together, not just to work out and to exercise, but to have fun, but also allow the parents, caregivers to be role models themselves and to see the value of exercise for their own well-being, but also to model it for their kids is really important. And so you see we have some social programs that we're doing here. We do exercise classes together with parents and caregivers. And on the right, a couple of weeks ago, we actually were charity sponsors, partners with the Doug Flutie Foundation for Autism, and we were at their 5K. I think we had about 50 to 75 of our athletes there and their families, and they trained for weeks. And we had a little competition going on. We raised tens of thousands of dollars for our scholarship fund that supports many of our athletes who need financial assistance. So we're very lucky to be partners with the Flutie Foundation, and are grateful for everyone who's been a part of that. But creating this community, supporting the families, and looking beyond just the athlete, but to all of those who support them is absolutely vital. We're all in this together, and so we need to take care of ourselves. And then finally, focus on achievement. This is the last tenet, and it's a very important one. A lot of people, when they first start, they say, how do you make it fun? We do have fun here. I just showed you a couple of examples of that, but it's not really about fun. It's really about success and achievement. If you go to a movie or you get on a roller coaster, it's fun, but when you get off, it's over. But when you achieve something that you didn't know was possible, that can be transformative. And many of the people we support, many neurodivergent people, and I don't mean to preclude anybody who is neurodivergent on the call, haven't always had the opportunity to be successful, especially when it comes to physical fitness. We need to help reframe our self-concept by achieving things and not just always worrying about fun. Hard work can be incredibly rewarding. Excelling at something like Dan was talking about a while ago and being able to succeed in pushing your body is much more rewarding than just having fun. You need to have both, but we like to focus on achievement. And as an example of that, and this is the last one, I want to introduce you to Jordan. she was the very first person to walk through our doors here over 4 years ago. She's, I think, 26 or 27 now. Her parents didn't. I learned recently, we had dinner together, lunch together, and they had a little bet against me. They were like, he's not going to last 10 minutes, or she isn't. Well, I'm here to tell you that she is approaching her 450th session with us, and she recently celebrated her 400th session here, which is more than most Americans, I would say. There she is. We just had an absolutely wonderful celebration, and she was just a joy, just like Dan, just to have her here. And it's important to, I think, stress this importance of achievement, because along the way, Jordan has gotten certificates, high fives, celebrations, as well as any other athlete who comes here, to show that you are doing something special, you are achieving this, and you are exceptional. That will last, I think, a lot longer than just having fun. Again, we do that too, but we need to make sure that our programs focus on recognizing what these guys are doing, just like anybody else. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I gave you a little bit of a spoiler alert of what to look for. There are, again, 6 things that when you're approaching any fitness program, whether it's in a public school system or in your YMCA or at a place like ours, what's the first thing? You want to make sure that they have a methodology. They've really thought this out, and it's not just sort of a fly-by-night, oh, we're just going to move around. They should have a comprehensive philosophy, methodology that's based on best practices. Because honestly, why should we expect anything less for our guys or for ourselves? You want to make sure that the people who are working with your athletes have the expertise, the knowledge, the experience, are really dedicated to working with the community, and that they know how to do it. And that comes with, education, but also mentoring and certification. Equally important, you want to make sure that the people you're working with have a deep respect for this community and for the people they're working with. Lots of compassion. They are cooperating. It's not a my way or the highway thing. And they are always, always presuming competence. These guys can do this. Finally, you want to make sure that wherever you're doing this exercise, whether it's a tailored place like this, or if it's a corner of a gym, it's at least there's been some thought going into, is it sensory friendly? Is it safe? Is it designed for success, so that they can learn and be successful? Focus on functional fitness, like we talked about, that generalizes to real life. And really importantly, is it going to get results? This is really important, and we're investing time and energy into this, and sometimes money. You should be getting results, like from any other experience that you're going through, especially given how important this is for the long-term health and fitness and quality of life of our guys. So that's really it. I wanted to share a lot. I think we got through most of it. We have a couple minutes left. The call to arms here, guys, is to raise the bar, and to really start expecting more, know what you need and what you should be expecting to see, and working with people in your community and the fitness programs around you to get more and to expect more and to see those improvements in health, fitness, and quality of life through exercise and strength and conditioning programming. There's a little information here. If you want to contact us, you can click on the QR code there if you want to learn a little bit more. So with a few minutes remaining, I'm going to turn it back over to Mara or anybody else who's been monitoring the chats and see if there's anything that we need to answer in terms of questions.
Thank you so much, Greg. That was just a phenomenal presentation. And I just want to make sure I get in that I couldn't more sincerely believe in this program as life-changing. And it really makes me emotional to watch the success that you've had with these athletes and their families. So just a huge thank you. And also I want to thank Dan and Stacy for sharing their experiences. I think what's coming through on the chat is just incredible excitement about this. I think Kristen actually and Shayna are doing a great job answering everybody's questions about, how can they collaborate with you better? Where are you expanding to? There is a question here around funding. I don't know if you can answer that a little bit.
Sure. I'll do my best. So we have a couple of ways of funding. We are mostly private pay, but as I think Stacy mentioned, DDS, depending on your service coordinator and your circumstances, they know about us, and there are avenues there for many people. And we work with those families to certainly streamline that as much as possible. We, as I mentioned earlier, have the scholarship fund through the Doug Flutie Foundation, and we use that to support many of our athletes, to share some of the costs. Other people have found other ways of supporting an athlete, whether it's through crowdfunding or what have you. But right now, those are the primary ways of actually getting support through DDS. Some school districts, by the way, have also supported athletes here because they weren't able to support them. And then, of course, the scholarship fund.
I do have a question.
Dan, please.
So you first opened the inclusive fitness in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, brilliant move,
And-
right?
Yeah. And how do you keep on raising the bar for areas who don't have inclusive fitness?
Mm. I think the first thing, Dan, is a great question. I think the first thing is to do what we're doing right now is share with people what's possible and how important this is, so that we're collectively thinking and reframing how we conceive of neuroadaptive fitness. That's the first start. As I mentioned, we're looking to expand. We will be expanding nationally over time. And I think, part of what we're also trying to do is just educate others about what's possible and what they should be expecting and how they can actually even improve some of their own programming. So it's a long, slow road, but it's really important, and we're deeply committed to it. Mara, were there any other questions before we move on?
There's a few more questions about, but I think Shane is getting to them about just, outreach and exactly where you guys are located, and
Oh, yeah.
you could.
Greg, do you want to talk a little bit about the certification process of the coaches that came up as well?
Oh, sure.
And kind of our backgrounds, et cetera.
Yeah, I'll do that quickly. We are located, by the way, in West Roxbury, right next to Dedham, on VFW Parkway. This is our first center, it's our flagship, and we're looking to open up additional centers in the coming months and years. Our certification process is it starts with, first of all, identifying the right people. Are they educated when it comes to physical fitness? Do they have a degree in exercise physiology or kinesiology? Maybe an occupational therapy degree. We've had SLPs work here as well. And then we do a training, I should say, a sort of an observation period where somebody comes in and they observe, they see what we do, we get a feel for each other. And then we go through a certification process that is based on the work that Eric Chesson, whom I mentioned earlier, developed through Autism Fitness, where there is an online component, there's an in-person component, there's a practical component. And once you're certified, then you can start working with a coach who has been doing this for quite some time with some of our less complex profiles. And we sort of do co-coaching and that mentoring. And then eventually we sort of swap and we observe the coach doing their work with the athlete. And over time, that skill becomes stronger and stronger and more effective. And then eventually a coach is given a roster of their own athletes. But we have a head coach, Lauren, who oversees all of the programming along with Kristen. And then we do professional development on a very regular basis, talking about different diagnoses, different training methodologies, behavioral support systems, safety care, that kind of thing. And so it's sort of an ongoing learning process, but we start with the person before they even walk in the door, and then we sort of take them from there, and we all learn from each other.
And Greg, I'll add that a couple of your coaches have family members who are neurodivergent, and I think that adds a special element to their training process and their empathy and that magic that literally is in the air when you walk in the door.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It certainly helps to have that personal connection.
That's coming through on the chat as well, because Deborah's mentioning about recruiting siblings for coaching roles. Really great idea. And yay, UMass Boltwood students, I love them. They would be wonderful candidates. There's so many people that would find this this job just so amazing and valuable
Yeah.
and meaningful.
Thanks. It is, as Kristen, my business partner, will say, and I agree with you, it's the best job on the planet. We get to see our guys at their best, doing amazing things. We're not fixing anybody. We're just making people more awesome, stronger, more capable, and more connected to their community. And so that is incredibly rewarding. But we really do look for great people. So I know we're at the very end. I have one more thing to share. If anybody is interested, we're running a little bit of a promotion here for you guys. If you want to come in for a tour and by the December the 23rd, and you join up, then we'll give you the first month free. We say December the 23rd because we shut down between Christmas and New Year's. We all need a break. It's hard work, but I wanted to offer that to everybody. And you can certainly reach out to us on that QR code or in other ways to learn about what we're doing here. So I think that's it. My goodness, we got right up to the hour, didn't we?
Perfect timing.
Wow, I didn't know if I was going to get through all that, Mara.
You did it, Greg. And if there's anything that pops up in the chat, we'll save the questions and we'll get them to you. It was really a wonderful presentation, and I'm so grateful to all of you, to the whole team that's here.
Thank you, Mara, and thank you for inviting us to be
Yeah.
here, and thank everybody for joining us. I like the flag, Janice. That's awesome. Yay. That's great.
Everybody should follow you on your social media, right? It's so uplifting and amazing. So
Oh, thanks. Yeah, join us on Facebook and others. They're a lot of fun to watch. Instagram.
And Greg, or maybe put in the chat, your website is a great website as well.
Shani, you got that? It's inclusivefitness.com. Pretty easy to find. We'd love to meet you guys. And thank you so much, everyone. Last thing I'll say is for listening to me, and thank you, Stacy and Dan, for joining us. Your stories are just inspiring. And I really appreciate everyone giving us the time to share with you what we do.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
You too. Bye-bye.